Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Art of Healing with your host, Dr. Judy Jasek of Animal Healing Arts, and myself, Matt Rowe of ParsleyPet. During our show, we are talking about your pet's health, raw feeding, and alternative treatments for cancer, unexplained illnesses, and supporting your pet's natural ability to heal. Welcome, Dr. Judy, to this week's show.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here as always. Got a great topic today. I'm excited.
Yeah, you had brought this up in the pre-show when we were talking, and you were talking about electromagnetic frequencies. And I've heard you talk about this before. And the first time I heard you talk about it, I was like, what are you talking about, Dr. Judy? And then as I did some research and started looking, this truly affects many humans to the point that they have to live in an area where there are no cell towers. They are completely disconnected from anything electronic that comes and is being pushed down upon us, which gives me a little bit of concern with Elon Musk, and he's doing that Skynet with 10,000 satellites broadcasting down. So educate us. What are EMFs?
So EMFs basically stands for electromagnetic frequencies, and these are emissions from electronic devices, basically. So your cell phone, your computer, your Wi-Fi router, that's a real big culprit. But any electrical appliance, things like fluorescent lights. If you have one of these smart meters that the utility company can just drive by and read them to send you your utility bill, those are always emitting it too. So my husband got very interested in this, and he got a meter and went around our house. And the biggest culprit in our house was our cordless landline, the phone, the actual phone.
It wasn't your cell phone.
It was not the cell phone. Cell phones are definitely a culprit, but the cordless phone that we were using for our landline, which we just got rid of because we really weren't using our landline very much, was the biggest culprit. But yeah, things like fluorescent lights, your clock radios that, sit by your bed with the digital reality. I have a little travel clock by my bed now. I just got rid of, the clock radio. And so these can affect, because they're a certain frequency. Basically what they do is they disrupt the normal frequency of cells. So everything in the universe really has a natural vibration. It has a natural frequency. This is why things like lasers work, because things like lasers are correcting frequencies in the body that have gotten out of whack. I have a colleague that lasers people's brains. It's just amazing. People that have had Parkinson's or stroke victims, and will actually help regenerate some of that nervous tissue. And it's all done through frequency. So frequency can heal. Frequency can also seriously disrupt normal cellular function. And in people, it can be tricky. Some people, like we were talking about, are very sensitive. Like they cannot walk into, say, a commercial building with lots of fluorescent lights and lots of people on computers. They just can't. And a lot of people will really suffer because they'll get headaches. They'll be sick. They'll be so tired they can't go to work. And the doctors don't know how to diagnose this, because it'll things will show up normal on lab tests. And then they'll learn, well, I feel so much better when I stay home. Well, is that because my work's stressful or because it's the actual building? And you can kind of sort that out. But the thing is, these frequencies affect everybody. And this is where I began to extrapolate this into pets. So there's people that are less symptomatic. Like I don't feel a direct buzz from my cell phone, but some people do. And distance matters. So you have to think you may not be directly feeling an effect from being around the electronic devices, but it does not mean that it's not affecting the the cells in your body. Or it could be more subtle, like if you have trouble sleeping at night. We hear a lot, get off your screens a couple hours before bedtime so that,
Sure.
you don't have that stimulation, but also the whole EMF emissions from the devices. And so since I'm seeing more and more chronic illness in pets, and we have so many more electronic devices than we used to, they're everywhere. Seems like we can't function in this world without them, but there are safeguards, and this is a pretty simple thing to do to help your pets. Don't let your pet sleep with its head next to your cell phone. Distance does matter. Even going a few feet away from an electronic device will really decrease the intensity of the frequencies. And, things like your Wi-Fi router, if your pet's napping under your desk when you're working and their head's right there by your computer or by your router, boy, they're getting a big dose of EMFs and they're laying there all day. That could be really bad. And we have to think about subtle things like behavioral changes, pets that are hard to train, pets that are anxious. What if part of this is the EMFs that our pets being exposed to, and their brain cells just aren't communicating appropriately? I think that's part of why we feel so good when we get outside and get into nature and go up in the mountains, get out of the city. We feel so much better because our bodies are not being bombarded by all of these frequencies, and I think they can be really, really disruptive to normal functioning of the immune system and our nerve cells, and really pretty much every cell in the body, I think, could be affected.
That's interesting, because there are moments like Leo is just every once in a while, we say he has Vietnam flashbacks, because he will just go crazy. And at times he will refuse to come into the house. Also, he will go down into the basement and try to hide. He will hide underneath stuff. He's never been abused. He's never had any, and living here, he lives in Shangri-La. I mean, he is, 2 squares a day and constant pets from 2 kids and myself, and walking, and we do all of this stuff for him. But there's a time, and we just don't know why he does it, where his ears go back, and you can almost see like he's trying to avoid something. Like something is hurting him, but he cannot get out of it. So he will hide in our laundry room behind everything, and literally like goes and destroys the laundry room just to get behind stuff to just hide. And we don't know why that is. And so now that you mention EMFs, that's interesting, as I wonder if he hits a moment where he becomes too sensitive to it.
Yeah. Or there's just more, because we get it like from our neighbors, and, it's hard to escape it completely. But the more, you can do in your own home, at least, again, you're creating that distance, but the intensity, because there's external, factors too, coming into your home. It could be at certain times, it's just more intense.
So what do you think are some of the things that a pet owner might see in their dogs when they're in the house and they're exhibiting a behavior that is not normal, where you would receive a phone call and you're like, something's wrong, Dr. Judy? What do you think that they could become more aware of?
Well, I think as far as EMF is, again, just what are your pets hanging out close to your electronic device? People are working from home now. And if their pets are napping, down on the floor, my computer's down on the floor, if your pets are down there next to your electronic devices, if that's where they hang out. And, when it comes to cancer patients, I look at where in the body are the tumors developing, and is there some relationship between that and some sort of EMF exposure, or something that may have disrupted the normal cell function? I mean, at that point, we can't we can't change what's already occurred, but I use that as an educational question. Hey, does your dog sleep next to your computer? Where are your electronic devices? Are they anywhere near the dog? And it's a way to educate the client and to point out that, well, this could be a factor, probably not the only factor, but could definitely be a factor in why cancer develops. So when you keep, especially the things that are hard to diagnose. So, like you were saying, something's wrong with your pet, or their behavior just seems off. Like you were talking about Leo in the laundry room. Like sometimes it goes and, dives under the clothes and hides out in the laundry room, and we can't figure out why. Could be the EMF. We know people get headaches. How do you know if your dog has a headache? Maybe they're just going to go try to find a place to hide where the headache feels better. And that could be where there's, less EMF. Maybe that part of your home where your pet likes to hang out has less EMF, and they just feel better when they're there. Animals, are pretty instinctive, and they will do what makes them feel better. Unlike us humans, we're not always that smart. We just do stuff anyway, even if we know it may not be the best thing for us, but we do it anyway. But chronic illness, chronic autoimmune disease, gut disease, skin disease, it can affect anything in the body. And I know sometimes I just see cases like people seem to be doing everything right. We got the pet on a good diet. They're not over vaccinating. They have an appropriate lifestyle and activity level with the pet. And why the heck can't we get it better? So I think it's something we really need to look at. And I think it's going to keep getting worse. Like what you said, they're going to be beaming down on us to the point that we can't get away from it. All this 5G, they have to put up so many more towers for the 5G to work. And it's going to amplify this whole process. So, distancing yourself as much as possible is a good idea. And there's lots of things out there as far as shielding, but buyer beware. There's pendants and different things that are supposed to eliminate EMF. And there is some merit to some of those, because there are certain minerals that can help, like, neutralize the frequencies or change the frequencies, but you got to make sure that it's coming from somebody that really knows what they're doing, and they're not just, jumping on the latest fad. But you can, you can buy like shields for your bed for people, probably get them for your dog too. Like a little tent almost that you would put around your bed at night, like if you're really sensitive, and then you can put that up, and so you're not exposed. Now you have to be very careful. You're not sitting in bed using your laptop, because you're holding it all in there. Works both ways. Bed should be for sleeping, not not for laptops. If we want to sleep well, I'm a sensitive sleeper, so I follow all those rules to help me get the best night's sleep possible. So there are additional things like that can be done. If you have a smart meter next to your home, people have gone and put like tinfoil up as kind of a barrier to try to, keep those frequencies from coming into your home, or at least make sure it's not on the other side of the wall from your bedroom, or, things like that. We were recently over at my husband's sister's house, and they actually got a new bed, one that lifts in the back and the feet lift, and they wanted us to, check it. Well, the bed was okay, but she was saying, I'm just not sleeping that well. And over on her side of the bed, the EMFs were really high, and the other side of the wall was their cordless landline phone. And so we said, you might want to move that, because it actually was coming through the wall and could have been affecting her sleep. So
after moving it, did she get better? Did she start to sleep a little bit better?
I don't think we ever actually circled back and asked her that question, if they actually moved. We're not going over to people's houses as much because of the whole COVID thing. So we actually never did circle back on that. But it's definitely,
when you and Chris introduced this to my wife and I know that the clock next to my wife's side of the bed is analog now. I mean, like you said, like a travel clock.
Yeah.
Like it's really like the old school clock that you get. It's not emitting any frequency at all. And when I asked her, I'm like, hey, how'd you sleep last night? You know, just when you wake up in the morning, drinking the cup of coffee. And she's like, I slept great. And, you know, I remember there were times when she didn't, when she had issues with that. So I wonder if EMF was a part of it. Even as a point to your headphones that you're wearing right now, those are air tubes, right?
Yep. Yep. Air tubes are a big, that's another great thing you can do is, so air tubes literally just have air in the line between where it goes in your ear and below. It's just like part of it is air, and that keeps the frequency from, especially if you're using it on your phone, keeps the frequency from traveling up the wires into your ears and into your brain. You know, you hear these stories about cell phones causing brain tumors, and you know, a lot of that information gets squashed. You know, if you wonder why you're not hearing more about this, because companies make a lot of money selling cell phones. So they don't want people to be afraid of them. You know, they don't want people to know that, you know, oh gosh, I put that thing up to my head, or, you know, I'm letting my kids, you know, it's a babysitter, you know, if clients come in and, you know, they have to bring a little kiddo with them, and they, you know, got the phone with video, you know, it's part of our lifestyle. But, you know, I'm here to tell you, I grew up without them. I mean, I have a cell phone and I use it, but because they are darn convenient. But I also know that you can cut back on using your cell phone and you won't die. You know, it's not as life-threatening as you'd like to think. It's a habit and an addiction, really.
It absolutely is. And you talked a little bit about distance. So I know for our cell phones, we just took them out of the room. We no longer leave them on the side of our beds to charge. We actually charge them downstairs. So we have in our room, we have nothing electronic that's emitting any type of frequency, because there's really no reason for it. So we just took small steps, not saying we threw everything out. We're like, oh, we're going off the grid or anything like that. We just really started to take these small steps. Our Wi-Fi router, we took off the ground, we put it up above. I mean, we consciously made some of these efforts to try to change the health of both of our dogs and get them to where they feel a little bit better. And even though I can't ask them, hey, how you feeling today, Leo? He's not going to talk to me and say, oh, this feels good. But then we notice in their behavior, if a slight behavior change starts to go one way. And then we started to take a look at our home environment. I mean, if we're being very specific on the foods that we're feeding our dogs, we feed them raw, because we know raw equals health. This is the way a dog should be fed. We watch the water we put in their bowls. We make sure that, I mean, if anybody goes, oh, our water's fine, go take a look at Flint, Michigan. They thought it was fine too. And so our water, I mean, is definitely, if you had to actually have a test, it has chemicals in it. I mean, they're seeing pharmaceuticals coming up in water. So we filter it all. And we filter everything that goes into our animals, that goes into us. And now we take that next step and say, okay, where is there getting unneeded electromagnetic frequency that I'm doing just out of habit, but really one small change can really start to adjust how much I am receiving.
Yeah, and you can do simple things that don't disrupt your lifestyle. I mean, I know a lot of people are working from home, kids are going to school from home, but shut your Wi-Fi off at night, you know, when you know, if there's, you know, a period of time where everybody's in bed and you're not using the Wi-Fi, at least your body gets a little more regeneration time while you're sleeping. And you can put on a timer. You know, you don't even have to do anything. Just put on a timer whenever, you know, you think everybody's most likely in bed and off the computers, then, you know, shut off the Wi-Fi and have it come back on first thing in the morning. And on some routers, you can like actually turn the power down too. So like if you could have it on max, but you may not need that much power. It depends on, you know, your internet and your needs and everything, but you can also look at that, turn it down. You know, do you need as much power as it's emitting? Microwaves. I forgot to mention microwaves. I I don't use a microwave. The only time I use a microwave is to heat up those, those rice things that are the warm things that, because I like to sit and stuff. So I'll throw those in the microwave. I don't have any other way to heat them up. I stand on them when the weather's really cold. I'm at my computer because it keeps my feet warm. But I don't want to microwave food. Not only, and if you are microwaving something, don't stand in front of it and watch. That's not good.
You don't need to watch it circle around.
Yeah, no, it'll do it fine on its own. You don't have to keep an eye on it. So don't microwave food. It's not good for the food, first of all. But then every time you run that microwave, you're putting more, these frequencies into your kitchen. So you definitely want to avoid microwave use as much as possible.
And we are all emitting, and I think you had mentioned this, we are all vibrating. I mean, at MIT, we actually studied inanimate objects that are not alive, like a desk, and they proved that that desk is actually vibrating. So everything on this planet has a vibration. And so us included, and we are emitting an electromagnetic frequency out just from our own bodies. We're energy and we're electric. And I mean, there are times that, think about it, is there are some days where you're just exhausted. And then if you know that one positive thing is going to happen, you turn immediately from exhausted to excited. Your energy fires back up again. So when you then start taking a look at it at another level and say, okay, are we really disrupting our cellular structure in order for our health? And is some of our health being dictated by all of these electromagnetic frequencies that are constantly surrounding us every day? And there are some people that we were talking about, I think a little bit in pre-show, that have to move to a location where there's nothing, there's no cell towers, they have no TV, because they're getting extreme headaches. And they're going through these moments where they're just like, they can't. Go into an office building and pay attention, you can hear the hum coming from the lights, where I cannot exist in an office environment when there is just fluorescent lights all the time around me. It takes me about 4 hours and I'm like, all right, I gotta walk out of here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's subtle. Like it's not like I get headaches, but I definitely get anxiety. Like when I go into the city, go downtown, and after I learned about EMFs, I thought, I wonder if that's because of the EMF. Because after like a couple hours downtown where there's lots of buildings, or it's a very busy environment, even going into like big grocery stores and stuff, it becomes sensory overload quickly for me. And I'll be like, I just have to get out. And I really think that is in part due to these EMFs. So you think, well, I just don't like, it's not a city person. Well, there's a little more to the picture than you think. And again, our pets can't talk to us. And and there's a lot of information out. If you Google, EMFs, their effects on people, people have written books about this. It's very, very well documented what an adverse effect this can have on our pets. And again, our pets can't talk to us. We just notice these subtle changes. There's no test for this except to take your pet, go hang out in get a cabin up in the mountains for a week and see if your pet's, behavior changes. Or something like that, but there is no definitive like medical test. We rule out all the other things, and then you have to start experimenting with, is there ways to minimize the EMF in your home that your pet's exposed to?
That's a great point. Well, I hope everybody that's watching right now, you may have like immediately started to take a look at it at the beginning and gone, what are these two talking about? But I hope that we sparked your curiosity enough that you take a next step to start doing your own research and just take a look at it. And, it may not be affecting you, but if you're noticing something that's not quite right, explore EMFs. There could be something in there where it creates that, oh yeah, or you change that habit of removing your cell phones or the clock radio next to you, or changing that out. And it doesn't have to cost any money. It's just,
Mm-mm.
you're just going to change a simple step.
Right? Changing your behavior, which sometimes is hard, but moving your cell phone out of your bedroom, that's beneficial for a lot of reasons, because it allows us also to start our days without looking at our screen. You can
Yes.
have a little smoother entry into the day,
Yes.
rather than picking up your phone and checking it. And I've heard a lot of coaches and mental health experts recommend that for people. Like,
Mhm.
aside from the EMF, just don't make the first thing you do in your day checking your cell phone, because then
Yep.
you're just on, it just like
Right.
you get that adrenaline going and you're on for the rest of the day. And it's healthier to ease into your day a little bit more slowly. And as we've talked about, pets pick up on our energy. So if you are, revved up from the second you get up there, your pet's going to pick up on that. And then you're wondering, why does your pet seem anxious? Or why does your pet have separation anxiety? Of course, that's not as big of an issue now because people aren't leaving, but
Yeah.
these anxiety type behaviors. Your dogs are fighting more than one dog, and they're fighting more with each other. Things like
Mhm.
that. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's really worth looking at this EMF issue if you're asking those types of questions.
Yeah. I was so well said. If you want to start changing your life, change your habits, change
Mhm.
one small thing and make different choices. So thank you, Dr. Judy, for your time today. Thank you for this show. This has been educational for me. You're going to get me to look around my house a little bit more than I have in the past and say, okay, let's see what I can do to get better.
All right. Good job.
Awesome. We'll see you guys all next week. Next
Okay.
week at noon Mountain Standard Time. We'll have another show coming up. So thank you guys so much, and we'll talk soon. See ya.
Bye.